Our story today takes me to here in Brugge, in Belgium. And it's here that there is a medieval torture museum. And there's torture museums all over the world, in Chicago and other places in the world. But the reason why I want to take you guys to this place is a museum that doesn't have replicas of these torture devices. These are the actual torture devices used during medieval times right here in Europe. So let's go check out the Medieval Torture Museum here in Brugge, Belgium. Alright, so as soon as we start into the torture museum, we have this guy who is very recognizable, Vlad the Impaler, with his, let's just say his cousin, I guess. So I don't think these are the scales of justice, but look at this. So this is from the 1638 European witch trials that took place from 1560 and 1680. So during these witch trials, innocent women were accused of having a pact with the devil and consequently terribly tortured and burned at the stake. But before that persecution, a test had to be sure that they were actually witches. So on the scale, the subject was weighed, and if she was found too light, she was considered to be a witch. So they would put the poor woman on one side here, put the weights over here, and if she was too light, well, that meant she was a witch, and she was going to be tortured and burned. And in many cases, the weights and the result of the weighing were manipulated because, the church simply can't be wrong. And then this is exactly like my office chair at home. Look at this. How'd you like to be seated here, naked, have your arms be put in here, and have this rolled across your legs? The chair of torture. That's crazy. So this is known as the breast ripper. The breast ripper is also known as the iron spider, or simply the spider. And this was a torture instrument mainly used on women who were accused of adultery or self-abortion. The instrument was designed to rip the breasts from a woman and was made from iron that was heated in a fire until it glowed red hot. Lovely, just lovely. And here we have the rack, which is commonly considered the most widespread and painful form of medieval torture. This is the Heretics Fork, and this was a tool that resembled a two-way steel fork with 4 sharp spikes piercing into the body under the chin and near the breastbone. It was tightly attached by a leather belt to the victim's neck. This variety of fork was used in court procedures for charges against being a heretic and witchcraft, the usual offenses for speaking out against the church. Branding was a common form of torture. It's also called stigmatizing, and it's the process in which a mark, usually a symbol or a pattern, is burned into the skin of a living person with the intention that the resulting scar makes it permanent. This is achieved by using a red-hot branding iron, and during the medieval times, inflicting pain and torture was an accepted form of punishment or interrogation. If you refused to convert to Christianity, well, there was a brand for that as well. And here you have another kind of plank, where the victim would be laid on this plank, and a board would be put on top of him with all these weights until they just crushed him. So this one is still used to this day. This is the Chinese water torture. So the way this process works is to strap someone by his head and body, hands behind his back. Then a simple drop of water would proceed to drip on the victim's forehead. The height from which the drops fell also was significant, for the strength of the impact of the water droplet hitting your forehead actually depended on how effective this method of torture was. After a while, the water starts to penetrate into the skin and skull, driving the victim to madness and confessions. So this entire museum is in the basement, it's in the dungeon of a building, but this wall right here is the original remains of the oldest European prison from the 11th and 12th century. So this wall actually saw what is represented in this torture museum. This wall, if it could talk, it could actually tell us about all the poor people that were actually tortured behind this actual wall. That's insane. And here we have the guillotine. They would stick your head in here, blade would come down, head goes in the bucket, and everybody would cheer. Oh man, look at this. Everything in this display right here was used to pull your fingernails out. Oh man. So the wooden horse. In its day, this saddle was a piece of metal that was sharp. And you were to sit on this naked and have these weights weigh your feet down so that it splayed you by your genitals. Yikes. And this is the Judas Cradle, one of the most painful torture devices of the time. You were forced to sit on this sharpened log, naked, and the device was never washed from victim to victim, which made it all the more dangerous and infectious. This meant that the victim could face deadly infections, even if he or she managed to survive. The way it worked is that you were hoisted with ropes, and the victim was made to repeatedly fall on the spike in order to immensely increase the pain. Oftentimes, your legs would be weighted down so that the spike would further impale you. The psychotic mind that came up with this torture device is just simply astounding. So if this main section of the torture museum isn't bad enough, then you come past this gate and enter into the torture chamber. Man, you can really almost get a feel for what it would be like to put in one of these torture dungeons. And you would think that an organization like the church, who sanctioned all this, would say, hey, we follow a guy that said, love one another, love your neighbor, no matter what. And they sanctioned this. It just kind of boggles the mind. And look at this guy. Rat torture. Where they would lay them down, chain them, and then put a starving rat on their belly that would eat right through their belly until the victim died. Unreal. And if that didn't work, they would use this on you. They would put this mask on your face, put a live rat in there, and the rat would eat right through your mouth. I mean, the ingenuity of torture devices is staggering. That humans not only came up with ways to torture other people, like this isn't enough. Somebody had to really put some deep thought into the rat torture. What kind of sadistic mind comes up with this stuff? So this may look like any ordinary saw used to cut wood, but it wasn't. It was used to cut you in half. And then we come to our last piece in the torture museum. This is the Iron Maiden.
Iron Maiden? Excellent!
So this is a device that they used to put you in. They'd put your head through there, and they would close it. and these spikes would impale you. The Iron Maiden. Hang on a second, I thought that the Iron Maiden may have been the last display, but here we have the fire hose torture device. Dun dun dun. Is that really a torture device, or is that just... No, alright, that's just to put out fires. Alright, very nice museum you have here.
Thank you.
Very interesting. Okay, so that was, well, crazy. It's amazing to me as a historian. I have a degree in history. I don't know if a lot of you knew that or not, but when I look into the past and see what we used to do to each other, and not only that, but the horrifying ingenuity of those torture devices, it literally sends shivers down my spine. To think that it was socially acceptable to use devices like that to convert people to Christianity, to punish innocent women who were accused of being witches, to torturing prisoners. And that was completely socially acceptable at the time. So guys, there's lots more strange adventures coming up, so hit that subscribe button when you do hit that bell so you never miss an upload. Give this video a like, and until the next strange adventure, embrace your strange and rattle on.